Welcome everybody to the first ever episode of Into the Indies podcast. I'm here with Emiliano Pastorelli, the lead of Hammer&Ravens, and funnily enough, one of the first indie devs who ever approached me to try out their demo back in 2018, which have been many years now. Welcome to the podcast.
That's true. Thanks for having me here, and I'm happy that it's now almost 10 years that we know each other. I think it's it can be nearing 10 years soon, and I still remember. I think the first contacts that we had. I don't even remember why, but I remember them, and it's kind of fun to have survived this long already. So it's.
I was thinking about it actually when I drafted this intro, and I realized that the first ever person who contacted me about their demo was about a Kickstarter that's no longer here. So, a failed Kickstarter right off the bat, they disappeared. While you, the second one, after all these years, 4 games, everything delivered, and we'll cover everything here. So, you are actually the success story.
I'm a survivor story.
I get it. So, I would like first to start from the beginning. What's the first game you ever remember playing and enjoying?
It was that's quite some time ago, and I think it was for sure on Amiga. I had an Amiga 500 plus, and I think it was. I researched this game again some years ago. I think it was Silkworm, and Silkworm was a helicopter and jeep a side-scrolling game. That was probably. At least it's the first game that I remember. It might have not been the first game ever, but it's the first one that I remember. And at that time, I was buying pirated games from a colleague of my father. And I think I was paying basically the equivalent of 25 cents per floppy. And every month he had a list that he was giving around to all the colleagues. And you could pick the games that you wanted, and then he was making you all the copies. And that's how it began. I think my gaming career. I know it's not glorious, but I think most people began in a similar way because at that time, games you bought one game every several months, and you were stuck with that one. So playing those pirated games, and most of them most of the time the floppy disk, they didn't work, or some games they are the copy protection, so you couldn't play them past a certain point. It was interesting, but that was the beginning.
For those who don't know, Emiliano, you are from Italy. I'm from Greece. Did you have early access to PCs and consoles in Italy? Because in Greece, the pirated stuff really hit with me. Even in a bit of a later days, we didn't have access to the latest technology right off the bat, like US, for example. So we had to rely on older machines, pirated games, because prices were really high. Was that the same in Italy as well?
No, it was okay. My area was a bit in the middle of nowhere, compared to the big cities. So we didn't have we didn't have major access to things, but it was still decent. It was not too terrible. And stuff was expensive. We had a single PC shop, game shop, or Amiga or computer shop in the old town. And once these guys, they sold me a game that had the copy protection activated. That means that they pirated the game. So I still remember that, and I remember the game that was Hook, the movie game, the point and click game, and I couldn't finish it, and I was driven nuts completely because. There were only 2 mugs, and you needed 3 mugs. And then I found out years and years later that this was a copy protection for pirated copies. That means that the one that I bought was pirated. That's why, probably pirating game made more sense than buying games.
Yeah. And do you remember when it was the time that you thought, okay, I would like to try out becoming a game dev? Was it early or later in the years?
It was early, but it was ignored for a long time, wisely. And I think it happened again when I was doing my Erasmus in Estonia. And there was like I had to pick like several courses. There are optional courses. There was like this game and avatar programming, and somehow until that point, even though I was studying IT, I never considered making games anymore. Like I was maybe aiming for like a proper IT career, let's say. And but this course, they let us make a game in with Game Maker, and it was surprisingly fun. And the teacher was like a super serious Estonian old guy, but really super nice. I even have a book signed by him, like somewhere there. And then I realized, oh, it's pretty easy to make a game nowadays. Like, I even have like some of the skill set needed for that. And then after that course, it was around like 2011 probably, and I decided I googled a bit and I found out about Unity, and then I thought, okay, let's try to install it and see what happens, and that's the beginning. Like that's the tipping point of my life and career.
And how long after that did you start the idea or Hammer&Ravens itself?
Very soon, like somehow I went like straight into making like a gigantic game, and without even having an idea about game design, about having an idea of like how to use Unity and everything. And my original team was all Greek guys. Like somehow I had like a Greek friend in Estonia. He was like working there as a 3D guy, and then he had friends that had friends that had friends, and then at some point it was me and I think 7 Greek guys. And now and then one of them was disappearing, a new one was replacing him. Like that, it was like a sort of like a special flow. But then at some point we stabilized in the making of Empires in Ruins, and so we are like the whole graphic team was Greek, and it was almost right away. I think we started like in 2013-ish, slowing down, speeding up, but like more or less around that time. And yeah, that was like that we went straight into a too big project, like the usual thing, like the
Yeah. Empire in Ruins was the game you contacted me by back into 2018. Funnily enough, right around the time when I first ever created social media for the blog. I had it for like 6+ months without any social media presence. I didn't care about it at the time. But even though you contacted me around 2018 for the Empire in Ruins and we had an interview at the time, if you check on Steam right now, we can see that instead we had another game come up, Razor Wire Nano Wars at the time, first. Can you tell us a bit about this game, Razor Wire, and
that game
what the idea behind it?
was a sort of a bet against a friend of mine that at that time was working on Disco Elysium, or at least on the team that then became like the team that made Disco Elysium, and I wanted to prove, and he wanted to prove that we could make a game faster than the other one and release it. And I was using only the lunch breaks. And somehow I wanted like to make some experience in releasing a game, even though I was working on the big one. I wanted to try like the Steam API. I wanted to try like how did it work to integrate the achievements and everything. And so I made like a super simple game based on a single idea, basically. It's an idea that I had while I was sitting on the toilet for mobile games. But somehow at some point I realized that for mobile games it didn't work that well. So I kept the idea there for a while, and then I made it like in 120 hours over the course of like 3 months, I think. I made it, released it. Of course, like it didn't sell much, like, but at that time you still sold some copies, like not much, but still, like if you do the same right now, I think you sell like 5 copies. At that time, maybe I sold that 200 in the beginning at least, like so, like semi-presentable, and then. Because of that game, I got to meet my actual lead artist, Francesco, because he saw the game in some Italian on some Italian channel, liked the game, wrote me, and then we got in touch. And then a few years later, he made the new visuals for the remake of Razor Wire. We kept the game the same, but just we gave it like a full like a new visual style, new key art, some like the visuals, they were really simple, they were barely animated, so like it was very easy to do. point. And doing it like that fast. And that friend of mine that was betting against me, even though then he made Disco Elysium, so like achievement-wise, he did pretty well. He never released this game on Steam, so I won that. That was not bad.
So essentially, you were working on Razorwire alongside Empires in Ruins.
Yes, yeah, during the lunch breaks.
Oof. Lunch breaks from one game to work on a second game.
Yeah, but
That's the life of the indie dev.
It was thought out as a very simple game to make. It was relaxing. It was like very contained in scope. Like it did allow me like to clean the brain later during the. It was surprisingly less stressful than it sounds like describing it.
Okay. And then if we continue a couple years after, we have a published game, Headbangers in Holiday Hell,
Yes,
by Vicker Lane.
because
Yeah.
yes, Vicker Lane belongs to a friend of mine, Pert, Estonian that lives in the UK, and like prototype stage. And then at some point he presented me the idea of this game about metalheads shooting Santa Claus and his elves. And I really liked the idea. It was like really this kind of like grumpy anti-Christmas game, but still a bit Christmassy. And I kind of forced him to continue the project. So I produced him, I helped him with the design, and I provided him Francesco as a pixel artist. So I sort of like became like the producer, publisher, and like cracking the whip guy. And then we made it happen. It was a small game, like didn't last. I think it was like 6-7 months project, but still like very presentable, very clean altogether. Like it didn't sell much, of course. Like it was not really expected like to sell much. But it was another release game. Like it's still part of this satisfaction of like getting stuff finished and getting stuff released.
Yeah, I remember playing. I have covered it on the blog. It was simple, but it was fun in its simplicity at the very least. And also, as a metalhead myself, I really appreciate the theme for sure.
We had also the soundtrack from a metal band of friends of Pert, and we we did also put the metal band in the final stage of the game. So like it was like they gave you like some of the music for free to use, and then we put them in the game like as a reward.
Yeah, it was really fun. And then a year after, Empires in Ruins finally finished. And I would like to discuss first of all, I would like to chat about the history behind it, but I have a really specific question at first, which I remember I asked you even at the time. You had, from a design perspective, a tower defense game, but also have some other aspects of it around it, like a bit of an overworld map, a story, and also a now really known voice actor to assist in the project. So how did this all come to be?
Like probably because when you do your first project, you don't know shit basically about anything, and you have like plenty of ideas, and you think that the more ideas you put together, the better it would be. It was somehow a type of game that I wanted to play. I was like, at some point I realized, they look like all the tower defense games, they are really shallow. There is no meta game in between like the battles. It's just like about like one battle after another. And I grew up like playing a lot of strategy game, like every kind of like 4X, RTS, or even tower defense. And the idea of merging these things together sounded interesting. Like a spoiler is that it worked, but up to a point, I think. And I think commercially it was a really bad idea. I think design-wise, it was somehow I made it work, like surprisingly, but commercially it was bad because it was addressing two completely different type of players. 4X turn-based players on one side, and real-time player, and tower defense had like still this stigmata of like being like a mobile style, a mobile genre. So commercially it was really difficult to present it. Still, then I decided, like, because I was not content with that enough, I decided to give it like a thick story layer with like very gross dialogues, like and a lot of swearing and black humor, and like I loved it. Like I still today love the idea, but if already a strategy game that was conflicting for genres was not hard enough to sell, adding a layer, a lot of people got like offended by the game dialogues almost. There was not like offensive, I think. Like it's just like they were really rude, and so like this all mix. This all mix, I managed to get like the voice actor from The Witcher to do the introductory video, and it does the speech as Sergeant Heimer, the main character of the game. And that I love that video. Like I watched it like billions of times, and now and then I keep on watching it.
Yeah, it was really good.
And then everything mixed was released on Steam. Like suicide, like, but it didn't do well, but it could have been worse. Like again, nowadays the same game would do nothing at all. Then it was still the last few chances that a game had to make some money. It didn't really make some money, but it didn't fail completely as it would do probably nowadays. And
So,
yeah, no, sir.
how many people would have been part of the Empires in Ruins team at that point?
I think it was around 7, 8 people. Like they were like I said, like some people we lost along the way. They were just like ghosting me because like everything was like really, really financially weak. Like so, we were based on like revenues. We were based on like we had contracts and everything. But like if you don't show people the money, sometimes it's hard to keep people working. And most people they also had like day jobs to like because the game didn't bring any money. And now and then some of them disappeared like just like that. And we had like a 3D guy disappearing. We had 2 3D guys disappearing. We had an illustrator disappearing and reappearing. We had an illustrator disappearing and never reappearing. But somehow I always managed to find new people to fill those gaps. And so we managed to get till the end, like 7, 9 people. But it was really, really weird that I was the only. And that made like the project last forever. Because we had a lot of art team, like all of our team was art team, but and we had like a really, really slow production line because we made like pre-rendered 3D because I love like this 90s style. But isometric pre-rendered 3D is a lot of work because you need to make like the full 3D, render it, and then Unity is always like most of the engine they are working towards optimizing 3D games. Like 3D is getting like all the fancy optimization stuff for big texture, for anything like for instancing or everything. 2D is meant to run on small size, low quality sprites mostly, at least like in general. So like pixel art, like the resolution is really low. And so if you have like 20 sprites of pixel art, it barely feels like a 126 times 258 sprite sheet. But a sprite sheet of Empires in Ruins was gigantic. Like we had like I think the catapult tower, the sprite sheet was 8K times 4K, because you had like all the rotation of the catapult. It was like crazy, like worst production ideas. But because we were discovering stuff as we were making it, so like it was still a time in which there was already a lot online, but not that much. Like for example, Unity, when we started making the game, Unity didn't have a UI system. Like the only UI system was like scripted and very, very, very rough. Like you couldn't do almost anything. So imagine like, and then we tried to make everything with that one as we were learning and as we were starting with the Empires in Ruins, and then they introduced a UI system, so we remade everything anew. But learning also the new one. So whenever you learn something, you usually use it the worst possible way because you're sure like, okay, this is the right way to use it, and then like when you're done with it, you find out that okay, that is awful. So that was like a learning project in a time of heavy changes, not for us, like but like for the everything. And we were trying to make it as fast as possible, and it still took forever to make the game. And the thing is, like in 2016, there was still a small amount of game released per day. In 2021, there was already like 10 times that. And every month that passed, it was getting worse. So like you really had to speed up. But at that point, we were committed to a gigantic game, so we couldn't speed up past a certain point. And we had like this strange production pipeline. We only had one programmer. We had like some. It was like we survived it. I think the achievement is.
Unfortunately, we lost the next couple of minutes of the interview due to technical difficulties. We were discussing about how COVID impacted the project. And now back to the show. Yeah, and for the listeners, just to remind that the game came out in 2021, so we are talking about several years worth of development, and most of them before COVID. So just to give a better idea of what time period you are talking about for Unity not having tools and all the difficulties. Also add to that almost 2 years of COVID in there. Year and a half worth of COVID, and you're still under development, supposedly in the late stages, but with people coming and leaving and the general uncertainty of the times. For those listeners who know, I have released a book in the blog, the Into the Indies book, not the podcast here, and this was also a COVID period project, and in that I talked alongside you as well, Emiliano, to a lot of other people, and it was really interesting later when everybody started talking about COVID, how everybody in the indie space was impacted by COVID and the different things and all the stuff. So Empires in Ruins was also at late stages impacted by COVID, you could say.
We had to cancel one. We went twice to EGX in London and in Birmingham with the game, and the last one we had already booked and everything, and we had to cancel because of COVID. It was already a bit after COVID, but it made no sense to go there. Like we didn't want to go in an event where like there were like 10 people going around with masks and nobody around, and it was still quite expensive to attend those events. Otherwise, the fact that we were always working remotely saved us somehow, like because we could keep on doing like most of the stuff the same way we were doing. Like I'm working from home now since more than 10 years, first during freelancing, then with the game and everything. Another thing that really slowed us down was also the fact that everyone had day jobs. I also had I was doing my PhD and then I was freelancing on the side, and of course like now and then for 1 or 2 months you couldn't do anything for the game at all because of course like you had to make money.
Yeah. And just to bring it back to the team question, for context, Razor Wire was, I understand, essentially yourself plus the artist afterwards to assist with the new version.
Yes, it was like initially only myself and a friend of mine that made a soundtrack. It's not even really a musician, but he liked to play with synthesizers and so on. And I told him like, okay, make a soundtrack for the game. He made it and it was surprisingly good, and so we said, okay, let's use it. And then a few years later, I don't remember when we did the remake, like 3-4 years ago maybe, then it was Francesco, but like Razor Wire was solo. I made like the art, I made everything.
Yeah. And Headbangers, you had Vicar Lane and yourself plus Francesco, if I remember correctly, you mentioned?
Exactly, yes.
And then you have Empires in Ruins where a lot of people are revolving around, and
yes,
you had most of the managerial task then at your hand.
Yes, but I was also the main programmer. So like I was like doing in Empires in Ruins was somehow like I was mismanaging a team, treating the team as an extension of my needs. Like because it started like much smaller than it became after, so it was not really planned for a cooperation. Yeah, at some point there was another German programmer helping me a bit with the sound programming, but it was really hard to add someone to a very large and very shitty code base because it was the code base made by someone learning you. So like there was not really method to work with multiple people, and so it was like a big chaos that kept on working, that never stopped. but it was pretty chaotic as a.
And so let's continue to the latest game, Ale Abbey. So when did Ale Abbey become an idea? Was it before or after you finished Empire in Ruins?
It was as I was finishing Empires in Ruins, and the lead idea behind it was that I wanted to finally make a game that was commercially viable. And so I was looking at pixel art with that in mind, like ease of production, catchy visuals, and then I was looking at a genre that I didn't want to mix too much with other stuff. That was Tycoon, that I grew up also playing Tycoon games, and it's a genre that I know well, that I like, and it's pop, and it's almost like timeless, like Tycoons. It's always popular enough, and then there was the beer topic. I was really into the beer topic, and by that time I was like peaking my beer topic moment. So I really wanted to do something about beer and whatever else I was doing, and putting everything together at some point. I don't even remember the exact thought, like of a monastery brewery tycoon, but I love still like monastery beer. I love tycoon. And then I thought, okay, yeah, it happened.
I remember I followed you before COVID or something like that on Facebook, and I remember when you started posting the beer creating you did on your home.
Yeah,
so yeah.
With COVID, it peaked like my beer production. Before I was already doing it for several years, but like as a small hobby. And then I remember during the first month of COVID, I ordered, like, I ramped up the hobby and I brewed like 50 liters of beer like in 3 weeks. Every weekend I start like brewing beer, and I made it big all of a sudden.
You became the first fermenting, you could say.
Yes.
And when did you start actively working on this idea of Ale Abbey?
2021, because we got the deal in 2022. That means first I made a demo. I made a demo with the intent of trashing it, and I made it with Francesco. And in exchange for Francesco help with the art, I was giving him programming hours. So like, he was giving me pixel art hours, and I was paying back in programming hours to make some prototype games that he wanted to make. So we had like this sort of like deal, and we made a demo that we never used after. It was just like a proof of concept, let's say.
And this is the first time out of all the projects you actually have a publisher. So could you talk a bit how this came to be?
It's not fully true, because for Empires in Ruins we had a Chinese co-publisher.
Oh, okay.
Our first experience, like I still don't know. I'm still in contact with the guy, a really nice guy, like really friendly. We became quite friends. I still don't know what came to their mind thinking that this could be a game for Asia. It's still a surprise to me, but that was my first experience. I even worked for them as a scout for games. And
so this was the classic deal that at least I've seen around, where you have a publisher for Asia specifically,
yes,
not in total.
Yes, and
while Ale Abbey is more of a total publishing deal.
Exactly. Because the Chinese, they didn't pay for Empires in Ruins. The deal was like specific for Asia on a small revenue share, but because of marketing, but they didn't pay for the production of the game. Ale Abbey, we did it with Shiro Unlimited, and it started with a publisher because it was a big project. It couldn't be taken lightly or as a side job as Empires in Ruins could. I really wanted to make it like as fast as possible, as big as possible, as good as possible, and we needed the budget of a publisher, of course.
So you started the prototype with Francesco, and you first got the deal from the publisher, I assume, and then you build up a small team around the project?
I started already talking to people before. I already had like some candidates for the team, but of course, this time the idea was like I didn't work on revenue share anymore, and nobody wants. And but I wanted to have like paid people that had to respond to me as like employees. Like then we became also friends. But like I didn't want anymore to have like to beg people to work like we did sometimes with some of the people disappearing in Empires. And so like we took it a lot more like a business, like always like with the idea of making something that we wanted to make, that was going to be fun for us, that potentially commercially viable, but also taken very seriously in all the sense like of me being like the game director and one of the programmers and the designer, then having a lead programmer, having some programmers under the lead programmers, having a lead art, having the artist under the lead art, like a sort of like a classic, if very small sized hierarchy of like of a real team, let's say, like not anymore like organized chaos.
And how many people have been part of the project in total?
We've been we had also some oscillation there, like we lost a couple of them, like we got another member, but for some random problem, and we've been around 7-8 people most of the time.
Okay. And the game came out on 2025, so it took around 4 years, you could say. Can you walk us through how these years came to pass?
It was around 3 years from a bit less than 3 years for the I was called like the early access release, plus another 6 months of early access, so like a total of like 3.5 years for like the full cycle. It was like, it was very nice. It was very educational. It had its up, it has its lows, but I was like lucky to have like a very skilled team. We work everyone remotely. Half of my team was in Italy, half of my team was in Estonia. Then I had like one Greek in the Netherlands, and then I had like the composer in the US. We worked really well. Like all together, we did like, I think like we did challenge of like results. The publisher that first and foremost was a developer themselves, like Shiro. They really helped a lot during the development in making the game more pop. So they really by default, like I think as a designer before this game, I was like a designer that loved complexity, and now I learned that complexity is always cool in a game if you can convey it in a simple way to the players. And I think they helped me a lot, like they guided me a lot through that. So we remade some stuff like 4 times. I think the recipe part, especially the UI, like the mechanic themselves, like we changed a bit, like some stuff, but like not much. But the UX and the UI, I think we remade 3 or 4 times both the recipe and the brewing UI. But then in the end, we found like a sort of like clean path that was like clean enough for like the standard of the publisher, that made us happy enough, and then we went to release.
And this was the first game you worked that became early access first. Any experiences that you couldn't expect?
It was also early access.
Oh, it was. I forgot about that.
Yes, 1 year of early access. Yes, that was like a sort of like softcore early access because it was only me, like during that time almost. But it was also early access. But this one was a much bigger early access. Like this one was like a proper early access. Like even the fact, like the difference between a big early access and a good early access, aside from the early access that don't get to completion, okay, that there are many, but the difference is how many people are playing. Like if a lot of people are playing the game, you have a lot of feedback, you are happy, you have a lot of satisfaction, it's easy to work on the game. With the Pirates Ruiz, we had like much less people playing, so sometimes I felt a bit alone in my early access, but still, like it was like it kept on pushing on. With this one, it was a lot simpler because it was shorter. It was only 6 months of early access, and also because we really had a lot of people like sending feedback, and we had a big community gathering and to manage. We have like Discord servers on the forum. We were very active on the Steam forum. Like I was answering personally almost everyone. So it was like it was fun. Like I really enjoyed it. People were happy with the early access. That was very good, like as an experience.
And the game came out, I think, a couple months ago now, October, November,
Mid-September.
and in September. And you are now in one of the lucky places, I would say, that you are part of the 1,000 plus review club that not many indies can talk about. So this was, and sitting comfortably at a 90% positive for Ale Abbey. So how's what's the feeling that you have about this actual success, I would say?
I just got goosebumps the moment you said that. Like, so it was fun. It was like really nice. It started already with the demo that we had in the next fest. We didn't expect such a positive feedback. Like we were like completely mind blown by the feedback at every step of the work. There were also negative feedback. There was, but like in general, people really, really love the game. I've seen people leaving a review after playing 500 hours the game. And stuff like that was like, whoa, like really, is it my game? And it's really cool, and it gave us a huge motivation to really push on. Even during the demo, we had to crunch before the demo. We didn't want to, but we had to. And during the demo, like the next fest, we were fixing bugs like 1,000 per day, and but it was still very doable because people were so nice and so happy about the game. So like we have a tool in game that allows you click F11 to send a report directly from the game. So we get the logs, we get the saves, we get everything, and you can leave also a message. And some people wrote us like pages of messages, like really like comments and everything. But almost every report that we got, most of them, they started or ended with "I love the game." So that was really like really motivating to keep on doing that. Like had we had like oh, your game is shit, like I don't want to see it, sucks, like and stuff like that, that would have been not that easy to be that like that active on everything probably. But this way, that was like I cannot complain. Like it's like really good feeling, really nice people, like and developer often say, like not just developer, even the press, like say Steam is filled with shitty people. Yes, probably yes, but there is also a lot of nice people. Like, and maybe I think in our case it's the mix of game style, genre, mood, atmosphere, visuals, and everything. But we really attracted almost only nice people. So that's I very very.
It's a nice mood game, also.
Yeah, that's fun.
Being a funny monk brewing beer, it's a cozy subject, anyways. And the art style also helped. As a tycoon fan myself, I grew up with Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 or Transport Tycoon back in the day. I really love the genre. And over the years running the blog, it's always a special time when I notice, oh, there is an indie tycoon out there and it seems good. It doesn't seem like run of the mill. I realize that as a genre, it's always I'm always on the lookout for a new theme, like the mechanics and the idea behind it. It kind, if you go down to it, it's always like a spreadsheet game. In the end of the day, you make sales, you see numbers, you manage stuff, but it's always that interesting theme. What can you theme it around? Of course, you had the idea about the beers, but how did the monastery aspect of it came from?
It came all together. Like my focus was the beer, but there were already some games about making beer online, and they were like mostly about like modern breweries or like brewmaster simulation or like more like. And so I want something different, and I've been really always really passionate about like a monastery beer. The idea of a monastery is, like, if you think it's about like quite easy to model in as a system. Like it's very regular. Like they have like a wake up time. They are like go to sleep. They have like this routine that repeats over and over. And then I was reading a bit, and in medieval time, the monks drank a lot of beer in the monastery because of like they found some loopholes. That it was forbidden to drink more than one glass of wine. But beer was not mentioned in like some verse or whatever. And at the same time, when it was fasting time, beer didn't count as food. So they could like they couldn't eat, but they could drink. And there were like some English monasteries that they drank, like where the monks drank up to 4 or 5 liters of beer per day. I think it was like mostly, it was not very strong beer, but even if it's like 2-3% and you drink 5 liters of it, like you have to be drunk. And I wanted to give the game like this mood a la theme park or theme hospital, this kind of a silly humor. And I mean, drunk pixel art monks. It's like it's perfect. Like it just fits.
Yeah, it was really, really cool, to be honest. I remember playing the demo and I was like, yeah, the music also. I think I sent you a message at the time when I was playing it. The music also hit the right tones, being medieval, not a bit silly, like not silly actually. That's the wrong word. Like
Even festive,
happy,
yeah,
festive, yeah. And it was really fun.
we didn't talk about
So
like our composer, like Clint
yeah, please do.
Clint Bajakian, our composer, worked on all the LucasArts games from Monkey Island 2 till like Grim Fandango. Like then he worked like on Outlaw, and then he moved on to be like the music director at Sony. And then there he made like the soundtrack for Uncharted, one of the Uncharted, for Gods of War 2. So he had like a gigantic career, and working with him for us was just like we were super starstruck. And but the quality is visible. Like I mean, like you really see that he has like, and we learned a lot from him also about sound design, and even about like the technical tools to use, because we learned about tools that we'd never heard of before that did integrate super well with our pipeline. And that was really like a gigantic plus to have like Clint in the team. And he's the super cool guy. And when he was young, he was homebrewing at home. So I felt like everything fit together.
I remember you mentioned to me when I chatted to you about the music that you really liked working on the game because the background music was always so cool. So it made you continue work on it. That's a big achievement. Um, okay. What would you say is right now we are 2 months from the release. You just released a huge quality of life update a couple of days ago, like on the 5th of December, I think. Um, what do you what do you believe is the current status of Ale Abbey?
This is a big question. Ale Abbey is there. Is there and is as complete as it can get, I think, at the moment. Um, we call the update Requiem for a Brew, because
Yeah, I
not
noticed.
not because the game is dead, but because the game at the moment has to stay where it stays. Like it did very well, but I think it didn't do well enough to expand it endlessly. And I also think like somehow it's a game that I always thought that it would deserve a lot of DLCs, but I also see that it's a game that plays pretty well on its own. Like you do a run, you do 2 runs, and like on that amount, like to expand it further, it would need probably some redesign of some of the core parts. And at the moment, the game is there. We maintain it. We did like after release, we did patches. We like in the first month, we were doing like 2-3 patches a week to make sure that everything is as stable as possible, as clean as possible, as robust as possible. But slowly, it's time to move on from A. It might be that at some point we will go back to it. Who knows? You never know, like what can happen. The game goes viral, and you realize, shit. Now we have like to make 2 DLCs for it. Why not? But at the moment, I'm like much more eager to do other stuff. Like also after 3 years and a half of working on see everyday monks and beer. Beer is no problem, but like monks and like hearing the same music as much as I loved it, playing the same stuff. It's really nice, the idea to change a bit, like to do something else.
Yeah. So is this official now that this is the last patch until further notice?
It's like I cannot even say it's official because it might have, like it might really change like in 1 month. Like, but at the moment, I think it could be the last patch for a while.
Okay. So let's talk about what do you believe you learned most out of the Ale Abbey experience? What are your takeaways?
I think they are like production wise a lot. Like it was a gigantic experience production wise and went well, and I reinforced my knowledge of production methods. But I think the thing that was most important was design-wise, to keep things simple. And I think that what became my mantra is almost if you, when you are designing something, you cannot think of the UX, of a good UX that makes these features simple to understand and to use, ditch it. Because it doesn't matter if it's a beautiful idea. If you cannot convey well to the player, it will be a semi-hidden system. It will be awkward to use. It will ruin the game rather than add into the game. It's a good idea, and I think this is like probably my main, my current main guideline as a game designer.
And from now on, are you working already on something that you could talk about, or do you have any
I cannot really talk
ideas?
about it yet because we didn't make them public yet, but we are working on. It's a big thing to say we are working on two projects. Let's say we are working on one project and we are preparing a second project because we'd like to make like a smaller project first, like something 12, 14 months of production, because it's tiring to always work on like on gigantic games, and 3-4 years every time, or even more for Empires and Ruins. It's a lot. So I think in a couple of months we will be able to present the short project, and then we will see how we build up the larger project. I can say that one of the projects is the spiritual successor of Ale Abbey, but that's all I can say about it.
I want to ask about whether any of the projects had to do with beer. So I take that as the answer.
There are connections. There are definitely connections.
Yeah.
Also because we want to capitalize on what we learned. We want to capitalize on what people like and what people didn't like. So it's not bad like to it's nice to change completely genre or style, but at the same time you need to start working and learning everything again from zero or almost. So like staying in a familiar ground also it can be quite interesting.
So do you have already the team that is working on it? Like, are you continuing the Labby team, or are you changing up because it's a small thing?
We had to reduce the team at the moment. We are still in contact and in very good relations with all the team of Ale Abbey. Depending on how things evolve for the big project, it might be fairly similar to the Ale Abbey team. The smaller project is a subset of the Ale Abbey.
Okay. That's all for the game. So I would like to bring the discussion a bit for the last part of the podcast to indie, the indie game industry in general. You already mentioned a couple of times already about how different it was back in 2016, 2017, etc. So you are one of the special cases I've met up that has managed to make it to various different eras, let's say, of the indie game industry. So it's always cool in my eyes to take a step back and see how things have changed in your opinion over the years. So if you could take the time and think a bit about it, what would you say are some major takeaways you would have compared to how things started and how things are right now in the industry?
It's like almost in every market, not just in indie games. It's similar. It starts. A few people have the idea. A few people have the technical know-how to implement those ideas. If the idea is good, they make a shitload of money, and they have a big success and everything. And then the easier it becomes to approach the idea. It's not that making game it's easier. Like if you have like bad ideas, you still have bad ideas. But the tools they are getting, like they make it easier and easier to finish a game, like to complete a game and to release it. And but that's already like it's already old stuff. This one it's already like 2016 was already this happening, and then it kept on growing. I'm not even really following anymore like the indie world like that much. Like I'm mostly focusing on ourselves, on our project. Like when you are so neck deep in a project, you don't even have time to think too much about it. Everything else. It's a pity that COVID interrupted the events that we were attending. After COVID, I went also to Gamescom somewhere else, but like to have like a booth with a game, with a computer and everything near other developers in person was really fun and was really interesting. Allowed you to meet people, and then after years you see one had success, that one did, and that like it was growing. After the event stopped, I don't have that much contact anymore with other developers, but a few. But I see that like it's like the trend is more or less staying similar, at least in my eyes. Like more and more games. Doesn't always matter the quality of those games, but it's harder and harder to sell. People have more and more game. I think now the quality is rising, and the quality in the last couple of years is rising a lot again. But even if the quality is good, if there are too many games, people only have a limited amount of time to play, and they will only buy that many games. They will add games to their backlog and everything, but it will be less and less that they buy specifically your game because they were waiting specifically for your game, unless your game is something extremely special. It's getting fuller and harder, and we shall see. I have no idea how it will go. Like I have no idea if at some point it will explode as a bubble. Like they say that the indie bubble will explode, but they say it like since 10 years now, and it never exploded yet. Like so, but I don't know. It's very hard to say, but it's harder and harder.
If you can share, are you now considered a full time in Hammer and Ravens yourself, or do you have to still go out and do other stuff?
No, I'm full time. Like luckily, since the beginning of Ale Abbey, full time doing only this.
Okay, that's actually really interesting. Even in the book, I always had the question about the money because I don't consider myself inside the industry, but I keep more of an eye than the random person. So it always fascinated me the financials of it. And one of the outtakes on my book was most of the people, as you said earlier, was okay. Everybody has a side job because you never know what is gonna happen.
The thing is, like, when the project they get bigger, you cannot do it as a side job. Like you need like they take so much time and so much effort and so much focus, especially if you are like me, like covering my role. That I'm like I do everything. Like I follow the project from the 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening in every aspect. Like and I need to check like if the artist made like the stuff the way I wanted it, if the programmer made like the stuff that I wanted. I'm a manager, but I'm also a technical manager because I'm a programmer myself. Luckily, I have like a sort of like semi-decent eye for aesthetics, so I could like talk with the artist, even though I cannot draw to save my life. But you live in the project like so much that you cannot do anything else. If you just like have a smaller role, maybe if you have like a secondary programmer or so, maybe you can make let's say you work only 5 hours a day on the game or like 3 hours a day, it could work. But if you are like this person like that I was, you can't. Like it's like mental sanity already like this. It's already like on the edge of like getting lost. If you do like more, like you have no chance of making it.
Yeah, and also earlier you said that about the people who not having too much time to play anymore and stuff like that. Are you having any time to play anything at all?
Yeah, I do play not much, but let's say every evening, like half an hour to 1 hour, I try to. Like not every day, maybe it doesn't work every day, but I still manage to. But funnily enough, ever since I started making game, I play games completely different from the ones I was playing before. I don't want to play games where I think. I play very dumb triple E games which I have just to follow the story and usually shoot something because that's the only way that gives me some relief. Now and then I try again some indie games. Now and then I try again some strategy games. But before, like let's say before 2005, I only played strategy and management game and point and clicks. Now I barely play those.
Yeah.
Just because my brain is so tired in the evening that I need some like dumb release. Like let me shoot something in the easiest possible way that I will be happy. Like, give me a storyline, well narrated, like, but that doesn't have to be that complex, and I will be happy.
Yeah, you could also say that you are creating management games yourself, so it might make sense that you try something different. Even when I'm playing games for the blog, which I enjoy doing, sometimes I'm like, yeah, okay, but I've played too many of X genre right now. I need to change something completely different, do something different.
Yeah, but for example, point and click. I never made a point and click. I would love to make a point and click game. I grew up loving point and click games, but right now they are like so commercially weak that I don't dare making one. I also cannot play them because like somehow it's too slow. I have to think too much. It's weird. Like I played hundreds of them before, and now it's I don't know 10 years that I don't play one.
Yeah. Any recommendations you can make? Any games that you played over the past, let's say, couple of years that really stuck out with you?
No, there was nothing that really impressed me aside from playing some really old game. But like they were mostly like triple E games, but games that I never played. For example, I played Trilogy, or some years ago, like with a huge delay, I played finally The Witcher 3 and these kind of games. But I play them usually like 5 years after they are released. So that it's for me they are already vintage games almost. Like indie games, the only really nice that I played recently, I don't play many, but it was like the News Tower. News Tower was a kind of similar-ish to Ale Abbey, and at first I bought it to study. I usually buy a lot of games similar to my games that I'm working on to study them. And at first I bought it to study, but that one I really enjoyed.
Fun fact, at the time of recording, the last review I have uploaded to the blog was the review of News Tower, and I really agree with you. It was a really good game and interesting game to play. I believe that's it for today. Thank you very much, Emiliano, for your time and joining us. And we'll see everybody on the next episode of Into the Indies podcast. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.